Coming to you live from CBT Studios in the heart of Roseville, California. I'm your host, Matt, and joined with me as always are your two co-hosts,
Roger
and Andrew.
And this is the Cryptid vs. Cryptid podcast. Now play that intro music. We're back again.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to be back. 2 weeks and you kind of start longing for this again.
I know. Yeah. It's really a long time, but I feel like if we jumped on a week-to-week basis, it
would
just
that
become
would be
too much.
Yeah, our schedules, I don't even know we could fit that.
I mean, they're changing so much, and so much is going on. It's just not even close to a possibility at the moment.
All right, any shout-outs to the intro?
A couple. So first, just a general thank you to everybody. I haven't checked today, but we're sitting well over 500 downloads now.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
So
halfway to 1,000.
This is our 500 download special episode.
Yeah.
And you guys keep talking about stuff. Let me pull something up real quick.
I mean, are we talking about the explosive growth of this again? I mean,
it's just you
it's
gotta
pretty amazing.
Talk about it every time. I mean,
every time
it's so weird to think that a couple months ago we were at like 60 and we're like, oh my god, this is big stuff.
Yeah, it was like one episode was at like 25 and we're like, oh my god, and now it's like 500 downloads across the board. Like, that's insane to me.
And now we're just halfway to 1,000 now.
We can't keep climbing. That's all we got to do, you know?
All right, and we have a special shout out. I'm going to deliver it this episode, but I'm also going to deliver it next episode since today isn't a typical episode, and I want to make sure this person gets the proper shout out they deserve. So special shout out to Tamara. She and or he wrote into the show, and it's really cool. Just talking about how she enjoys the episodes, really liked episode 5, liked how we do things, likes imagining the breakdowns and what the fights would actually be like. And it pains me to say, she is a Mothman defender. But that's okay, you know, we can all coexist in this world. And she shared with us some awesome artwork because she does go to the Mothman Festival.
That was cool. That was pretty dope, honestly.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to take some cryptids off of here once the pool starts getting a bit thinner.
I definitely did. I already did.
Yeah, we've marked some down for sure.
All right, cool. But yeah, special shout out to you, Tamara. We really enjoy fan write-ins. And if you stick around to the end, you can get our email so you can email us as well and share your thoughts and opinions.
I think it was dope because it was like the first genuine like respecting the podcast email about like, oh hey, you know, goes in depth about themselves type thing. Like, that was cool. Like,
yeah, no,
I loved hearing about.
Not to discount the other two emails.
No, but this one was definitely
it was different.
A lot
the last two were more critiquing things which we have done and said about other cryptids,
which is great.
Of course, we appreciate that. We love getting feedback on what we do, and we like bringing the changes people would advise us to when we get to it, whether or not we agree with it, and we just talk about that. But yeah, it was really cool. Really enjoyed it. Hopefully one day we can also go out to the Mothman Festival. It's on my bucket list.
Yeah.
We definitely got to hit that up. If only so that you can spite it in person.
I mean, I would still enjoy it. It'd be a lot of fun, but I definitely would be the one guy with my small little protesting.
Matt would just be like shouting at the statue.
This is not
accurate.
What I was about to say. We'd be enjoying the festival, and then we just see Matt in the background yelling at the statue.
He's like half drunk. Like, this thing, it looks nothing like what it's supposed to look like.
I mean, so another thing to get out of the way. We, the founders of CBT Studios, have done some upgrades and changes today. And we've introduced some posters, and I mean, you look at the poster, and that Mothman looks nothing like the one in Point Pleasant.
That's true, yeah. It's definitely a lot more accurate.
With all that out of the way, one more thing. We have a big update coming next episode as far as the quality of the show. Really be looking forward to that. All of us are really looking forward to that. It's going to be awesome.
Yes. This episode we did a little bit of upgrading to the studio, but definitely next week is going to be the biggest change.
I mean, we're all pumped. We're not going to spoil it yet. We're also going to have a guest on, so be looking forward to that as well. But I think with all that out of the way, we should probably hop into today's episode. Yeah?
Yeah. Today's episode, like Matt said, is going to be a little special. It's not within the main line, but it's still an episode. I think it's a new type of thing we're going to introduce. It's kind of an offshoot of cryptids. More things cryptid related. So today we're doing creepypasta versus creepypasta, essentially.
So we're going to do this from time to time just because the offshoot of the cryptid pool isn't big enough for us
infinite,
to go
yeah.
on forever with this kind of stuff. And so, we think it's a good idea to kind of branch out, kind of spread what we do a little bit wider so we don't burn through all the cryptids so fast.
Yeah.
That's kind of why we also do episode 5 specials and why we're doing this now.
To prolong the show as long as we can, but also to keep it interesting.
I also just find these really interesting. Maybe it's just me as like a kid, always reading and watching and listening to all these stories, but creepypastas are just kind of the best.
Oh yeah. So today we're going to be talking about the creepypastas of the Rake versus
Ticci Toby.
or as Roger likes to call him,
Ticci Toby. Okay, from reading it, it looks like Ticci Toby because he has ticks,
It's Tiki.
but it's Tiki. All right, cool. I'll go with the foremost headmaster on the subject.
All right, do we want to cover the Rake or Ticci Toby first?
Well, let's hit him with the Ticci Toby first.
All right, who wants to take us away with Ticci Toby history?
I'll smack him with the Ticci Toby.
All right.
Tobias Rogers was a boy born under unfortunate circumstances. When he was brought into this world, he was born with many mental illnesses, which would later drive him to insanity. He struggled through his childhood years, having to deal with bullies and eventually the death of his sister. This event would lead to a mental break. Toby would go on to kill his father and burn down his entire neighborhood. After committing this heinous act and on the verge of death, Slenderman came to him, restored his life, and eventually turned him into one of his proxies.
Yeah, very quick. When I was reading, that's pretty much the best summary I could come up with as regards to Ticci Toby.
The thing with creepypastas is that they're not like cryptids where they have multiple sightings, because they're not sighting things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's an origin born mostly from the internet.
But with that out of the way, let's discuss a little bit of Ticci Toby. Since it isn't, cryptid, we can't really do stories and whatnot, so how do we want to take this part going?
I mean, there's not much more to describe about him. Should we just go into like a little bit more detail? I
Yeah.
mean,
Bring
overall,
up as much detail as we can.
I think what was it? The ticking part was the tiki part was like he always had like weird mental tics from his mental illnesses. So that's where he got that first part of his name. But overall, I think it was just his father was a real bad alcoholic, and he like started beating him when he was younger and stuff like that, and like abusing him and his sister, and then his mom, and then eventually just kind of drove him over the edge. He started hearing things. As we said earlier, he's a proxy of Slenderman. So Slenderman was introduced into the story at some point, whether it be only at the end or somewhere in the middle. But he was definitely influenced by Slenderman at some point and ended up killing his father and then burning his neighborhood to escape the authorities. And then when they thought he died, he actually went on to just become a proxy of Slenderman himself. So.
Well, I think he killed his father just out of the spite, and then he started going all mental, and then that's when he started hearing about Slenderman. Because I know once he killed his father, his mother started to like shame him basically, and that's what kind of drove his mental state even lower than it already was, and then that's what caused him to burn down his neighborhood and stuff.
I think I also read that because of like all these mental illnesses and stuff, he would bite off parts of flesh from his body.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just another little detail to throw in there.
Another thing is somehow he has a hatchet, I think.
Two
He has,
hatchets.
Yeah, and they're both his father's, if
Yeah,
I'm correct.
I believe when it was either after he killed his father, when he was burning down the neighborhood, he took the 2 hatchets. But I think that's about all we got.
That's all we got story-wise. It's not like we showed. There's a few different branching ones, but it's pretty much the same thing, start to finish.
Yeah, pretty cut and dry. So let's move on to Ticci Toby abilities, stats, and characteristics. Let's start off with characteristics. So what I got is he's got the scarred body from all the damage he's incurred, biting his flesh, burns, things like that. And then he also wields 2 hatchets. But that's about all I got for Ticci Toby.
I know that it's not really anything that's going to influence a fight or anything, but he's like always wearing a hoodie with bandages on it or something like that.
Yeah.
We'll throw it down just to give the listeners an idea if they haven't previously got any knowledge of this character. Which
Do we know if, as a proxy of Slenderman, he gets any of the
That's what I was wondering.
Slenderman abilities?
You know, I was wondering the same thing. I don't really know. I haven't delved too far deep into Slenderman lore and stuff, so I'm not sure if he'd get some
I don't
kind
think
of
he like
special
transmits his
abilities.
abilities or anything like that. So I know that as a proxy, I think he's more just like a human, like no, I wouldn't say a minion, but like someone that he can command to do his bidding.
I think he would probably have like a dark aura about him.
Yeah,
like a
I mean
fear,
he's protected.
maybe
by,
like a fear-inducing like aura or something. But
I mean, just
he doesn't have the teleporting or the messing with all the technology and stuff.
yeah, or the drawing the children into the forest type things. Yeah.
I mean, you never know.
So,
Maybe he has something like that.
for characteristics for proxies, it says, despite popular belief, proxies are essentially little more than slaves. They are simply mind-controlled humans who do not gain any unnatural properties other than their behavior. Most proxies are completely unaware of their nature, as their memories are suppressed by Slenderman, and those who do find out they are proxies are often horrified to learn of the mind control that had occurred. So it doesn't seem they gain any special supernatural ability.
That is the other thing I heard. He started losing his memories because of his mental illnesses, and then like when he was starting to break down later on, he just started like losing his memory.
Till it was finally just completely suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess he doesn't get any special abilities to help him out in this fight.
Yeah. Like I was talking, he's just kind of is a minion. He's just kind of Slenderman's minion that he can, command around whenever he needs to.
All right, let's move on to stats. What are we thinking for intelligence?
I don't know if we've got debuffs
Originally,
for this.
I
or-
was going like, human, 10, there we go. But I mean, he suffers a very harsh mental illness. I don't know if it would...
He's kind of borderline insane, so...
Oh yeah. I don't know if that would deter his intelligence in any kind of way to take it down from a 10.
Well, I think it would, because he does things without thinking. It's like if you just think about how he killed his dad, he kind of did it without thinking, and then he regretted it.
Just on instinct,
Yeah.
kind of like an animal.
And so that kind of lowers your intelligence, I think.
Yeah, and especially with the complete like memory suppression and all that, like definitely seems like his mental state has deteriorated. So
Yeah, with the mind control, he's not even in control anymore. I don't think I want to go lower than a 9 though.
I was
gonna say 8.
8, really? You think it's brought down that much?
Yeah, I think it's definitely not like 9 is still pretty high up. We're like okay, almost a human level intelligence, like very smart apes or something like that could be a 9. But I think 8's probably pretty good just because of how deteriorated his mind is and because of the extra being under the control of Slenderman. Like I think that the 2 gives him kind of 2 major ticks on that.
All right. I can be swayed. We'll drop him to an 8 in intelligence. Now, what are we thinking for power? So, let's keep in mind, he's about 17 when all this happens, when he does kill his father and ends up burning down the neighborhood.
He's between 17 and 19, I think.
So, he's obviously not completely fully developed. He's pretty close, but not completely there. He's just a teenager. And we also have to keep in mind that he does wield 2 hatchets, if we're going to let that influence his power.
I don't think we let that influence the Goat Man, did we?
Yeah, we did.
We said that he can wield the fire axe easily, but...
I mean, I can go back and double check what his power is.
Then again, he
His
wields a
power's
fire
a 9.
axe, and he's a half goat, half
His
man
power was
monster.
9.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I definitely don't think it's going to be like a 9 or anything.
I would say maybe an 8 or a 7, just because you got to think he's also wielding these 2.
Yeah.
I was
with
going to
the
say
2
7.
hands.
I was also thinking at a 7. So I think we can settle on 7 for that one. What are we thinking for defense? I don't think it's going to be very high.
He does have a little resilience. He has hurt himself multiple times, so he might have built up a little resistance. But overall, he's still
just a
human. Yeah.
And he doesn't have anything extra to provide defense. I mean, he's got clothes, so maybe a little bit, but I don't think it'd be like a major defense. Like last episode when we had a Gator Man.
Oh, the scales
the
definitely
extra
give him a
defense.
pretty huge defensive buff. But
it's also hard to compare cryptids to humans.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I say with the sweatshirt, with the bandages, we maybe give him like a 5.
5.
We also got to take into account his resilience factor. I would say maybe a 6.
Well, I was gonna give him 4, just as like base human stats. I was thinking like 4, but we can add in a few things to give him
I usually
5.
think when it comes to base human stats besides intelligence, it's always kind of like a 5.
Yeah, this guy's also a teenager. Is it base human stats for a full-grown male, or
Well, I'll give it this. I kind of like the 6 because if we do take in the resilience factor, I mean, he was able to still survive being caught in the fire.
then again, he wields 2 hatchets, and we've said on multiple other episodes that your ability to attack also provides a little bit for your defense. So
Yeah.
I'll go with a 6.
All right, cool. Let's hop into mobility. I don't think this one's going to be extraordinary in any way, shape, or form. I think, if anything, it'll just be middle of the road, if not a tad bit lower, just because it doesn't seem like he's extra strong human. I mean, he does have that
Well,
resilience factor.
The thing is that he's still a kid, and kids tend to have more energy than grown-ups, kind of.
Yeah, normal, life's good kid. I don't know about this kid, but then again, the story is about when he was burning down the neighborhood. He thought he would be able to get away quick enough, but he got caught.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much that detracts from his mobility, but
We also need to take into effect that if these injuries he's incurred over his life have taken any kind of toll on him, or if Slenderman bringing him back from the brink of death kind of just nulled any of previous damages that have permanently affected him.
Well, I think we can throw in the fact that he doesn't get any buffs from being a proxy. Also, probably means he wasn't regenerated or anything. He probably had to just.
Well,
come
I don't
back
think he's
as-
regenerated, but if he's still a minion, Slenderman's obviously keeping him. If he's a named one, it's probably that he's a special proxy either way. So I would think that he would be more. It wouldn't be healed all the way, but it's nulled, where he just doesn't.
He just can't feel it anymore.
Yeah. And so
I don't know. I feel comfortable giving him a 4 or 5 for mobility.
I would say probably 5.
I was gonna throw out 4 because even if he can't feel anything detracting, his body's still his body. That's gonna affect mobility whether or not he likes it.
I don't know. This is a tough one. I still think 5, middle of the road. I think an average human probably hit around a 6, and then 7 would be like Usain Bolt, and then anything above that is when we get into superhuman kind of feats. That's the way I think of it, at least.
Yeah, I could see that.
So I think a 5 would be fair, but his body is still damaged. I don't know. This is a tough one. I will give him this. If he does carry the hatchets around constantly, it might weigh him down a little bit. I don't think hatchets weigh enough to maybe take that big of a factor into it.
But he's also wielding them, so he's gotten used to it. And once your body kind of gets used to wielding something, I think it's kind of easier to move with it.
I'm holding ground on the 4, but
I
either
know
way,
you
you
are.
guys kind of outvote me on this, so it's probably gonna go 5 either way.
I'm still thinking 5.
I know, and I'm still stuck in the middle between 4 or 5. I think there's detractors and additions that can weigh me either way. I think I'm gonna go, I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with a 5. I think that's fair. Alright, now, an interesting one. HP. Now, if we do take into account he's already sustained damage, would that damage that he's already sustained affect his total HP, you think?
Do we start him off in the fight as a cryptid after or before? Because if we start him off after, then it definitely detracts
Yeah,
from his
no,
HP.
this would be him after he is a proxy of Slenderman,
Oh, yeah.
near the end of his story.
I would think, since he doesn't have a regeneration factor, it's just null if we're going with that. Then, yeah, his health's going to be low. I would think maybe like a 3 or 4, almost.
Wow.
Well, the fact that he's survived it and then he's got a bunch of scars from it maybe doesn't mean that he's completely out of the game on health.
No, but I still can see where Roger's leaning with the low health.
I get where
goals
he's
it
going.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, the resilience is impressive, but the resilience won't affect your total HP. If anything, it'll just keep you fighting a little longer with your low HP as it is. I don't know, I'm thinking 4 as well.
I like 4.
All right, and let's hit the last one up with stealth. I mean, this one's hard. There's not really anywhere to take into account
This one was
any signs
really
of stealth.
This one was a really big one for cryptids because most of them are not sighted on a daily basis, but this was just some normal kid before he became what he is. So,
But we are taking into account this is him after he's become a proxy. And so do you think under Slenderman's mind control that his stealth abilities could increase? since Slender Man is definitely a very stealthy figure. I mean, he obviously wouldn't have Slender Man abilities.
Yeah.
So,
I get what you're saying, though.
yeah.
In connection to Slenderman, does that give him...
Well, now that I think about it, I don't know if that would affect his stealth or more of his intelligence. So he's a minion of Slenderman. I kind of think of Slenderman talking through him.
I think what Matt's saying is that as a proxy of Slenderman, so Slenderman's got control. So by proxy, he has more stealth just because Slenderman knows how to use him stealthier than he would be on his own.
But I still... Would we put him for intelligence?
8.
Okay, yeah, I can stick with that. I just think that if he's controlled by Slenderman, it would affect his intelligence.
I mean, we can go back to intelligence, but I do want to knock stealth out of the way real quick because you saying that's brought it to my mind as well. So what are we thinking for stealth?
6?
I think middle of the road or close to it is fine for him.
6, yeah.
All right. And while we're still on stats, let's hop back into stealth. Do we think the Slenderman mind control or intelligence? Sorry, do you think that would affect his intelligence in any sort of way? Because while he does have the 8, he's also under the control of Slenderman. And if he is Slenderman, like kind of seeing through him or taking control in a sense, do you think that would add on to his knowledge? Because Slenderman is obviously a very intelligent creature.
That might move him up to a 9. Now that I think about it.
My biggest thing here is if Slenderman is... It almost goes into how the mind control works. Is Slenderman literally in the driver's seat? Or is he just kind of giving suggestions?
I don't think he'd be in the driver's seat, but I think he'd be influencing his actions.
I think he'd be taking his train of thought more and putting things into his head to make him do it. He wouldn't be in the driver's seat, like controlling him fully, but he's going to make him do whatever he needs.
It's almost as if Toby is just a chauffeur for Slenderman.
Exactly. In which case, are we basing it off of Slenderman's intelligence then? Or are we basing it off of Toby as his own self?
It's more of a combination because at this point they'd almost be one and the same kind of being, mentally wise. Not completely the same, but I do think it would.
Because I think of Slenderman as the highly intelligent, like he's the peak of intelligence for that. Whereas Toby's, lower. So I think that's why it would work it down to a 9. It's like how Goatman was a brilliant scientist, but once he turned into a goat, or half goat, then he went to down intelligence. But instead, this case, it's working up.
I think I'd be comfortable bumping him up to a 9.
Yeah, I think we can move him up to a 9.
All right, cool. And I had a thought for an ability, but it slipped my mind. Resilience, yeah. I think resilience from death would be a cool ability to give him. Just because he was caught in the fire, but he was fighting against death until Slenderman showed up. And we did take the resilience factor into account.
Yeah, I think that would work as an ability.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to give him like a super major resilience factor or anything, but definitely higher resilience than
I think it would just push him to fight a little more.
Yeah, it gives him the extra edge. It kind
Even
of
on the
balances
back of death,
out.
He'd kind of still be fighting.
Yeah, kind of balances out his weaker stuff.
All right, cool. Well, with Ticci Toby out of the way,
we got to do a quick rundown.
I thought we usually do that after we've covered both of them.
Oh, that's right. It's been 2 weeks. I'm starting to lose my grip on how the episodes go.
Right. Do you want to take the Rake, Roger, or do you want me?
Yeah, I'll take the Rake. One of my favorite creepypastas, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Stories of a pale, slanky humanoid creature have been reported throughout the 12th century all the way up to modern time, with reports as recent as 2006, mainly spotted in rural New York. This creature is said to be very bony and white flesh and very sharp claws. This creature is elicited as interesting reaction from witnesses. Emotions range from sheer terror to curiosity and playfulness. One thing is for certain, across all of these reports, the creature is able to invade the minds of its victims to make them feel how he wants them to. Is this deadly beast just here to inflict fear in the next victim, or is it a more dastardly end to his plea?
God damn it. This thing doesn't
I think
have...
it's probably planned. Yeah.
This thing doesn't have autocorrect, so whenever I misspell something, I just don't know unless
I'm just going to say, through half, there's one part in that. You
Yeah.
said it twice, and that's why I was like,
Yeah.
All right. No, the Rake's one of my favorite creepypastas, just because it almost dwindles on the cryptid side.
It does.
like, because you see a lot of creepypastas are like either ghosts, like demonoids, or humans.
Well, also technical like .ai or AVI or .jpeg and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But this one's like an actual creature.
yeah, some kind of monster or being
Are those?
out there.
And I'm pretty sure the accounts are real. At least
Well,
some of them.
Some of them are, yeah.
Real is a relative
I
term.
don't mean like real in the fact that they've seen him, but the accounts of the people have actually stated.
Well, also some of the accounts of people being dead from this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reported suicide note. That was something that I saw that I thought was good. Just other notes of people leaving where they're from because of this creature influencing them, invading their mind, telling them to leave, all sorts of stuff like that.
The big one that I found was I don't know if this is the biggest one, but it's of the wife and the son that still lived after the husband and daughter died.
Is it the one that's based off of the picture of him sitting at the end of the bed and looking back at him? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the one. I think didn't the husband sacrifice himself?
Yeah, from what I read, he was taking his daughter to the hospital because the Rake had like attacked her after he was in their room, and then he was taking her to the hospital, and they both like crashed into the lake.
Yeah.
And
But that's probably like one of the most popular pictures of him besides his original picture.
the original
Like
photo
those.
is definitely the
Yeah.
Is that the one where he's in the forest?
Yeah.
It's like the Goat Man one, but it Rake.
Yeah, I can see it right now. It's just fucking disgusting.
But the other one, it's not even like an actual picture of him. It's just a drawing of him, and it's some of the creepiest shit.
Here's a reported suicide note from 1964. This one I really liked. As I prepare to take my life, I feel it necessary to assuage any guilt or pain I have introduced through this act. It is not the fault of anyone other than him, for once I awoke and felt his presence, and once I awoke and saw his form, once again I awoke and heard his voice, and looked into his eyes. I cannot sleep without fear of what I might next awake to experience. I cannot ever wake. Goodbye. Found in the same wooden box there were 2 empty envelopes addressed to William and Rose, and 1 loose personal letter with no envelope. Dear Linny, I have prayed for you. He spoke your name. And yeah, that one is my favorite of the accounts.
From what I can tell, he kind of like latches on, almost like connects to a certain person until he gets them to kill himself.
Yeah.
Like, or gets them
Or
to die and
kills them.
Yeah, kills them or something like that. But
The only ones when I used to look into creepypastas a lot, the ones I liked were the videos of him. They obviously some of them were fake, but some of them looked like so goddamn real that you would think they were real. And it's like some of them where they run down the stairs and they're looking up, and then they just see like 2 fucking glowing eyes and the creature crawling. It's some of the creepiest shit when you're like 10, 11 years old.
yeah,
Especially when you watch them at night, and you're like, dude, if I look up the stairs and I see this thing, I'm gonna die.
Oh yeah, you close the blinds, close your door, hide under the covers. Fucking
Just don't look
lock
at the end of your
closet.
bed.
Never get out of bed until the sun rises again the next day.
yeah. You do that, pull the blanket over your head, and you're like, nothing can touch me because I'm under this.
Nothing can see
And
me,
then you
nothing
feel like
can
something
touch me.
touches you. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
Oh, you hear just like the wind blowing outside, but you think it's something breathing right next to you, and you're like, oh.
Not even that, you just hear like a creak in the stairs, and you're like, oh no.
Go into
He's
a full
coming.
body shock.
Yeah.
Alright, let's hop into Rake ability stats and characteristics. Starting off with characteristics, I put razor sharp claws, frail looking body, and white skin.
Yeah, he's also got like completely black eyes.
With that, aren't there accounts of seeing glowing eyes though?
Well, that's of like cameras taking pictures, and then his
Yeah,
eyes just glow.
His eyes like reflect that.
So I added black eyes onto there. Anything else we want to add?
Characteristic wise, does he have like sharp teeth or?
I think he has sharp claws.
I know the sharp claws are a prominent thing that is repeated.
I don't know if he has.
I mean,
I haven't
can
really heard of him
see
like
it,
biting
but
anyone.
I
It's
can-
more just like he can talk.
I can see that when you look at any of the photos, you don't really see any teeth for him. It's
Yeah.
kind of just like a gaping black hole.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
never mind.
like a vacuum for the soul of his victims. Well, let's hop over to abilities. I only have one. I have mind invasion.
Yeah, he has like persuasion almost, like or what do you call that? Like death marking or something like that. Like apparently, like whenever he talks to one of them, they always end up dying. Whoever he talks to, they always end up dying at some point in the near future after that.
That's because he always, once he chooses his victim, it's kind of like a stalking thing until they die somehow. He's not going to stop.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a big deal that if he says your name or if he's going after you, you're done.
You're fucked, yeah.
So do we want to put something else down? Change the wording for mind invasion.
I'd still say mind invasion's a pretty good one for him.
Yeah, mind invasion kind of loops in with the like stalking and stuff too.
And let's move on to stats. Let's hop into some intelligence. Now, I think he's going to be intelligent, but I don't know how intelligent. Because obviously people hear him talking, but the goat man could also talk. He doesn't have a 10 intelligence.
Well, that's just because he was a human and then he went down to a goat.
But this thing, we don't even know if it was human to begin with. So
We just know
there's
it's
no
humanoid,
baseline.
and that's why. Yeah, we can get into that later.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's definitely more beast than man, I would believe. But with the humanoid figure, the ability to talk.
He looks more beast than man, but I feel like he acts a lot like him.
he almost acts above.
Yeah.
Like he's this creature that's come for you.
Supernatural.
He's supernatural in some way. He's beyond.
Then
I'm not really comfortable giving him an 11 just because I think
No,
he's not at
11,
that point, but I definitely would feel comfortable giving him a 10.
Really?
Yeah.
I would say a 10 would be pretty good for him, just because of how he does things.
Right. Then that's persuasion. I'll give him a 10 as well.
He's capable of human speech, I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
My thing was more of, is it an understanding or is he just repeating certain trigger words?
He at least has an understanding of
What-
how
how
to manipulate people into driving them into their doom.
He knows how to inflict fear on everyone.
All right, cool. Yeah, no, we'll give him a 10. I'm comfortable with that. What are we thinking for power? So
I know we keep going over this, but do we add in the fact that he has claws in his
yes,
power?
that is one
Yes,
thing we definitely
yes,
add
okay.
in. If we don't add in weapons, I know for sure we do add in like claws,
And
or
claws
teeth
and
or
stuff like
things
that. I think I always ask this, but
I will say that while that is a buff, I think the frail body definitely plays a factor in detracting from the
there's
shield.
not much behind it, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
So
I think
while it
it's
is a slash, there's not as much force going behind it as like a bigger cryptid that would have claws.
kind of like the Wendigo or something.
Yeah.
I want to give him like maybe even 6,
Uh,
something like that. 7 was going to be my next one, but 6 is
I
where
think
I'm really
6,
going.
with how bony he is, it just has to be that. I know he has the claws and everything, but all he does is attack humans. So,
yeah, it's not so much of a really an impressive feat of strength.
and then some of his kills are only just making them commit suicide either way. So,
He still has to convince them to
Yeah.
die or, drive them to that point. If he was more powerful, there might be more about him just slaughtering people. I mean, the one story that I really heard in depth, he only attacked a child, didn't even attack the father. So
Yeah,
And
even
she was
with
still
the sharp
alive.
claws, it doesn't seem to be his main mode of attack. He tries to more get people to kill themselves before he has to step in himself. So yeah, I think I'd be comfortable giving him a 6 as well. Right. What about defense? I think this one's gonna be pretty
pretty
low.
low too, just because of his frailness. That's the one I was
Frailness,
going
he doesn't
into.
have any like kind of bonus like feathers, fur, scales, anything like that. It's just seemingly exposed flesh.
I'm thinking like a 3.
Really?
Yeah, I was even gonna say like his mind tricks is really an overtime thing anyway, so that doesn't even factor into his defense. Like he can't just quickly like pop up, oh, you're scared now, It's just
Yeah.
like a
Something that it just influences you over a big span of time.
yeah. So in a fight setting like this, definitely not gonna have very high defense at all. I like 3. I'm willing to give him a 4. I think that aura of his claws for one thing, but that aura of like being a little bit more supernatural almost pushes him to the 4.
Yeah, I guess you're right with that one.
And even though his mind tricks do take a long time to send people to their death, I still think it could play a factor in just adding a little bit of fright and hesitance to attacking a creature like this, along with his appearance, which is just demonic looking. With even without the mind tricks, it would still terrify somebody who isn't used to that kind of seeing something of that shape,
Magnitude.
form. So are you comfortable giving him a 4?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mobility.
I think this is gonna be a high one.
I do too. Because from what I hear, like especially if he's on all 4s, he's going pretty fast.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad we're in the same boat, because I was also thinking this would be one of his
I'm
higher
throwing it out
stats.
there, 8.
8.
I was gonna go higher, but but I can see an 8 too.
Wow, higher? Okay,
Yeah.
he still
I was
is like a
thinking-
humanoid creature. So
But he's
honestly-
still pretty fucking fast.
he is pretty fast. Then again, a lot of the accounts are like, I was so frozen, and then he moved over to me quick. So I don't know how much the fear plays into that.
I mean, I was downplaying him more than you guys. I was thinking more of a 7.
Okay, what were you gonna give him?
I was gonna go 8. Like I said 8, but I was gonna go higher to like a 9.
So I think that if you were gonna go 9, and he's gonna go 7, and I'm gonna go 8, middle of the road's the way to go. Overall, I think we can all agree 8's pretty good.
Yeah, I think an 8 is fair. What about his HP pool? Is it like an impressive, unimpressive?
I wouldn't say it's on the level of Ticci Toby's lowness. I think it would be maybe like what we gave him. We gave him a 4, right?
For his HP?
Yeah.
I thought we gave him like a 5. Stat Master?
The stats? Let's see here.
I swear it was a 4.
Ticci Toby's HP is a 4.
So thinking with him, it's not really much of his defense. I still think you'd have maybe like a 6 or a 7.
6 or a 7, huh?
I don't know if I could go that high.
It depends on how. It's really difficult because nothing has ever like interacted with this guy.
I mean, I could go a 6. I'm more comfortable with a 5, but I could go 6.
I was also going to be able to go with the 6. I like 6. It's just the way he looks doesn't give off a very 6'5".
No,
Then again,
that was my thing as well.
He's also supernatural.
we keep on going back to this. He's kind of like an ethereal. It gives it like an extra.
That's why I don't really like thinking about covering creatures that have like this supernatural factor, because it can vary and how the supernatural factor comes into play in so many ways.
Yeah.
But we've obviously delved down this road, so we do have to commit to it. Just taking in the supernatural factor,
Which
I don't know.
it does sound like a kind of like a this is just a BS thing, but it definitely gives him heightened abilities.
Yeah, and I mean, supernatural factors in and of themselves are a BS factor. They're like cheat codes.
Yeah. Then again, this is an internet story that kind of just gained fame over time. So
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm giving him a 6. I think
6?
it's at first glance you wouldn't give him a 6, but the more you go into the stories about him, I think it definitely is where to go.
Yeah, no, you see him and you don't think 6, but I think I can head down the 6 route as well.
I mean, when you see him, you're not really thinking HP. You're thinking, oh my god, what the fuck is this thing doing
Oh,
here?
yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, shit. But, all right, let's talk stealth. What are we thinking for stealth? Thinking it's going to be high.
I'm thinking
It's just a matter of how high.
I don't think it's on a level of 10 or a 9.
No.
This thing's been caught on camera before a couple times. If we can take into account Roger's stories and then
Yeah, and I mean, besides the seemingly trail cam picture, a lot of the times he's seen is a purposeful thing to help further along the mental effect that he puts on the people. I think I'm going to go 7.
I was thinking 8.
8.
I like 7. I definitely do
My only
like
thing
7.
with the 8 is, unless he's in like a snow area, I think the white skin kind of detracts from the stealth capabilities a little bit because it stands out so much.
Well, it's also hella dark whenever he attacks.
Yeah.
So unless you have a light to be like, oh, look, then it's not like you can really see him too much. You'll see his eyes maybe, but you also kind of need a light for that.
I don't know. I still feel like you can see white. It stands out a good bit in the dark.
I'm pretty sure that that's how most people notice him too. It's because it's like a figure. You can tell, like if he was like all some other darker color, then it would be harder to see him like moving around. But like someone noticing a huge like some sort of figure that's white and just like motions in a blur, you know, that's gonna cause a lot.
But it's
more
not like it's a
attention.
bright white when they see him. It's more of like a dark gray figure. And then once they shine the light on him, that's when they see what it is.
Then again, all you need to do is introduce a little bit of light to the picture, and boom, kind of glows.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
when it comes to creepypastas, there's never really light. You always think
That's
more
true. Well, when it comes to
shrouded in darkness.
creepypastas, there's never really
Well, we
anything
also
concrete.
have to kind of take into account the battle arena, because I don't think it's going to be our typical forest battle arena for this one.
I don't know. I think it could be somewhat. There's little factors.
I mean,
to
I don't
it,
want to get
but-
into it like right away, but I'm thinking some stuff that might detract from his stealth.
Well, we'll get to there. We'll get to there once we get to the battle.
I still want to stick with the 7. That's all I'm saying. I'm stuck on the 7 ground.
And
I'll-
a
I
7's
don't-
still really good.
I'll go with the 7 round then. It does seem right.
It's definitely higher than average,
Yeah.
and definitely higher than Toby's, I think.
Yeah.
It's higher. I don't know how much higher. I don't remember, which I'll be reminded of because
6.
with stealth out of the way, let's do some stats recap. So, for the Rake, we have Intelligence 10, Power 6, Defense 4, Mobility 8, HP 6, Stealth 7. And for our boy Ticci Toby, we're sitting at an Intelligence of 9, Power 7, Defense 6, Mobility 5, HP 4, Stealth 6.
Damn, I totally thought we gave Toby lower stats, but
Yeah, no, they're both pretty well rounded.
they are both.
And a lot of their high stats are the same. So let's hop into some talk of arena battle.
All right, we have arena battle, and then we'll. I have something I want to ask after the arena is chosen.
I'm thinking more of like a cabin in the woods, or not even the woods, kind of just like a
Why not in the woods? What do you do in the woods? Because I'm thinking the fight's probably going to take place inside. So.
inside.
See, I was going in that direction as well.
I guess I could see that. I could see it more. It's not going to be daytime. It's definitely going to be
No,
nighttime.
it's going to be nighttime.
I'm thinking it's Rake going to go like start stalking people, and then Ticci Toby's going after the kids, and that's where they kind of clash.
Oh, I see. As a proxy Slenderman,
Yeah.
he's got to send them out to attack.
Yeah.
I was thinking more like Toby's, monitoring someplace out in the forest, some forest home or something like that. Maybe there are kids there. That's why he's there. And then the Rake latches onto Toby, and that's what causes their interaction.
I want to kind of leave the latching on the Toby for the fight, though.
Yeah, I think that'd be more of a
So
fight
this
factor.
is.
But I
what's bringing
definitely
them
think
together.
the arena would be a cabin surrounded by forest. And I also agree that I think a lot of the fighting is going to take place in the cabin. So as to where we usually just throw buildings in there for kind of aesthetic purposes and a little bit of extra thrill, like, oh, it could possibly lead to here. I think this one actually is going to put the building into a big effect.
The funny thing is, both of their stories have mostly inside effects, other than like the Rake's after effect of killing people while they're driving or
Yeah.
whatnot. But most of the things that happen are kind of inside. So
Yeah, no, I mean, Toby's a human, or at least he was, so a lot of his life is spent around buildings, in buildings, and he even destroys buildings at the end, near the end of his story. And if he is a proxy going to abduct children, he's going to build in areas with a lot of buildings. And the Rakes gets victims that are inside homes and things like that.
and the forest makes sense because just in connection to Slenderman and the picture of the Rake, both taken in the forest, these
Yeah.
things are both forest dwellers, definitely.
And also, when you think of creepypastas, creepy stories, the most creepy place is a forest.
It's a dark
Forest
forest at
or
night.
And a
abandoned
cabin.
buildings.
Yeah.
All right, so we're settled on cabin in the woods.
Yeah, we won't make the woods too large because, like we said, most of this is probably going to take place in the cabin. So,
Now, I'm just gonna set the start of the fight here.
Oh,
whoa,
hold
whoa,
on,
whoa.
hold on.
No, I'm just. This is setting here. Okay,
Okay, we've got a setting.
we're setting. Ticci Toby's going to a kid's room, and as he does, he sees the Rake sitting at the kid's end of the kid's bed.
I thought that's where you're going with that. And now put that picture in my mind, and I'm scared. I'll lie a little bit. Feel
I was
we walk
thinking
into
he's
the
in the-
apartment and we see just the Rake sitting on the kotatsu, waiting for us to come back in.
Please don't say that.
Or
I don't wanna...
one of us goes into our bedroom and there's just something standing at the end of the bed.
I was thinking he was more like sitting in the corner of the kids' room, which makes me think that we go back in there and he's in that corner instead of the like vacuum thing that we got. He's just sitting in that corner.
closet.
Oh my
Ugh.
god.
No, I definitely like that. That's how the fight will start. Now, before we get into this fight, Andrew, you had a question?
Yeah. So in this fight, are we saying Slenderman can intervene at all?
No.
No. So this is Toby's
okay.
immediately cut
Okay.
off from
Okay.
Slenderman intervention.
You know, I'm have to say this. Let's just save that for the fight, because there's something where I could probably go into
I'll
this.
say this. I think the mind thing would still come into effect, but I don't think Slenderman would have a direct influence.
No,
on
I
the fight.
think. Let's see.
I want to get this out of the way first. That way there's no like, oh,
I
maybe
don't-
Slenderman comes to help or anything. Like, we want to, is
All right.
Slenderman a part of this or not?
I don't think-
we know he's influencing Toby because
Here.
this is from the end of his story.
We'll just leave this here. I don't think Slenderman's going in there to go fight, but I feel like Slenderman will have an interaction in some degree, mostly more
But we
towards
did
the
say
mind.
that he just kind of influences him by what he says. We said he doesn't have full control. He doesn't have in the driver's seat.
Just save it for-
I don't think we typically don't let assist characters come in, so I don't think like he'll directly fight the Rake in any kind of way,
Well,
or at least not
direct. I don't
enough
think
to
physically.
affect the outcome
So
of the fight.
Overall, Slenderman will not interact in this fight.
Physically, no.
Physically, he
Physically,
will
no.
physically not be there at all. All right, cool. Before we get into the fight, quick word from our sponsor, our Patreon. You guys should go check that out. It's only $3 for the one tier we have. That gives you access to our Discord. That gives you access to our after hours. That gives you access to our... Actually, our Twitter's free, but...
it gives you access to our extra content.
Yeah, any extra bonus stuff that we put out on there.
Right now, we have our Patreon introduction episode. It's only like 8 minutes long, just me and Roger doing a little bit of back and forth. We will have the Discord link eventually. Still not up there, and I've been on my computer all week. I just haven't remembered.
There's not too much of a Discord populace. We also only have so many patrons. One.
Patron.
Total
Shout
of
out
one.
to Justin.
Justin, you're keeping us going. That $3 is really pulling it in for us.
It helps pay the rent.
Yes.
But yeah, we also have a special holiday case file on the Easter Bunny. More of to come as we pass by each big kind of cryptid character holiday. We have, today we'll be uploading our second after hours.
Third,
Third.
yeah.
Oh, you said that you wanted to upload them on the...
Yeah, this will be our second one. We're recording the third one tonight.
Yes.
Wow.
We didn't...
Yeah.
So we're uploading the second one tonight. I gotcha.
Yeah, so if you're interested in hearing us talk about anime, talk about...
We talked about games a lot in
Talked
the last
about
one,
games
but
a
we
lot.
talked also about podcast
We talked about
stuff.
a good variety of stuff. We talked in episode 2. We talk about just podcasting, the podcast genre in general, some of the inner workings, our opinions about it. We talked games, and I'm pretty sure we talked about cryptids and merchandising and cryptids in pop culture.
It's basically
We did a little bit.
It's basically just not talking full cryptids, where we kind of just talk about
Yeah.
other stuff.
After hours
in
is
general.
definitely just the three of us talking about our interests. So.
Yeah, and if you want to hear us talk about anything in particular and you're a Patreon, then let us know. I mean, we're down to talk about whatever. It's more of our kind of show to be free and talk about whatever we want.
Yes.
And in this episode, we'll be talking about the origin of CBT Studios.
Or at least where the name comes from. Because
Yeah.
you'd think it's CBC Studios, but no. There is
You
a
might
deeper
think it's
meaning.
Cryptid Battle
Tent or something like
Tent,
that.
or yeah, some weird name like that, but it's completely different meaning. It's got a whole backstory to it.
You could probably think of it.
So if you're
Anyway.
interested about hearing about that, or listening to anything else we put out, or any future content we kind of have coming down the line, feel free to become a patron. Helps the show, and we very much appreciate it.
Yes. All right.
That out of the way.
With the sponsor out of the way, let's get into this fight.
What are we thinking? Baseline. Fight kicks off. Toby walks into the room, sees this creepy, all pale, bony creature sitting at the end of the bed. Who do you think's going to draw first blood?
I think Toby swings instantly. I think he's right off the bat. Slenderman's like, I don't know what the hell that is, but you're killing it.
Do you think Slenderman would share any knowledge of the Rake? Because they both,
I'm not sure he'd have much knowledge of the Rake.
they're both kind of
Terror-inducing creatures.
I think he's talking more. They're both like, supernatural.
supernatural.
yeah.
That's the word. They're both like these supernatural creatures that,
Well,
in a
yeah.
way, are almost one and the same.
Well, I think they would also kind of clash at one point, just because of how they run with trying to terrorize too. So I think they would. I think Slenderman would have knowledge. I don't know how much knowledge though.
Yeah.
Not too much. Just knowing. Oh, it's this thing.
It exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are we thinking? Anybody in particular you're thinking is going to have the edge?
Definitely think the hatchets give Toby kind of a saving grace here. Kind of helps him block a lot of
I
those
think
Rake
without
attacks.
the hatchet, it would almost be a one-sided fight.
Oh yeah. I still think that it would be hard to hit with the hatchets though, just given the mobility of the Rake in general.
Yeah, I definitely think it's more defensively. I'm talking like he can deflect a lot of the Rake going in and striking.
Yeah.
It almost provides him a zone of safety because the Rake would know he wouldn't be able to take a whole lot of attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't know anything about this Toby figure, but do you think he would try and use his terror, his mind invasion abilities on Toby? Or do you think they would just be nulled because of his current mental state? Or blocked in a way?
No, that's what I want to talk about. I think that's where Slenderman would be a
He's
product of
definitely an asset
I
to
think-
Toby for this.
that. Well, I don't know if he's even an asset. It's just kind of a thing that would happen. I think the Rake would kind of invade his mind, because when I think of it, he kind of invades his mind in there. And at that point, that's when Slenderman comes in. And as he's invading his mind, those two kind of clash. But if the Rake can somehow get Slenderman's influence out of there, then it's almost like it's just Toby. And that would down his intelligence.
Oh yeah, and I mean it would affect him. It would allow the fear to kick in more as he fully comes conscious. Because as a proxy, it seems he's just a mind slave, so he doesn't really feel the emotion.
but I think that's also what would give Toby another. I don't know what it would buff him in, but because it seems like when Toby is scared of something, that's when
Adrenaline kicks
the
in.
adrenaline and his mood swings. It says his mood swings easily, so he'd probably get fearful, but also angry.
I think it would also kind of make him stronger, just because if you think about it, when he killed his dad, he's what, 17? So he's not even fully grown, and he took down a grown
Full grown adult.
Yeah, so
I mean, but it begs the question: would the Rake even be able to dispel Slenderman's hold?
I'm thinking about it in the sense that Slenderman almost has like Toby's mind on lock. So Rake even trying to scare him has no effect just because Slenderman is acting as a semi-second consciousness here to block it out anyway. Like, you can't get scared because you're just a slave anyway. You don't have fear, you know?
And I also think Slenderman's mind control capabilities would be far greater than the Rake's, because you have to keep in mind he's keeping control over multiple proxies at once while also continually terrorizing and invading minds of just normal people.
Yeah.
As to where the Rake is more of just like he sets his sights on one target, maybe a couple at a time, where Slenderman's got control over a large group of people at once.
but that's the thing, is that Slenderman has so many. I don't think he really cares what happens to him, because it said that, right? He doesn't really care what happens. I'm kind of just there to.
I can double check what
He,
you guys
he
continue.
cared enough to save him from his own death.
Well, yeah, just to use him. But I think it said something about not really caring what can happen to them, because it's just not his memo.
I don't know. I think I'm definitely with Matt on the fact that I think Slenderman's definitely a stronger force overall. So I definitely think that if not all, a lot of the nullification comes into play just because Slenderman's presence in this fight.
I think that
Whether or
would,
not
it would be
even if
more
it's
of the
not his-
influencing the terror and then Slenderman fighting him back, but that could also lead to Rake getting a hit in too. If you think about
Then again, that's all playing on in Toby's mind. He's still got to move his body.
Exactly.
So who knows what's going on?
Exactly, and that's what
Is
I
that
think.
paralyzing him, or is that freeing him up to not have to think about anything? He's just swinging. Yeah.
So it says some stories report proxies who have either failed or who outlived their usefulness later being destroyed to prevent them from becoming a problem. So Slenderman doesn't have a problem with taking these people out or giving them up. So it almost depends on who they are and their usefulness to Slenderman, to whether or not he would care to try and keep them alive. But I really do think that his mind control capabilities would be stronger than the Rake's.
Yeah, I think they're stronger than the Rakes, but I think when it comes down to it, if he's gonna battle Toby with the mind, I don't know if Toby would be paralyzed from it, of like that happening in his mind. It's still his mind, and his mind's not fully stable. So I think that would be enough to paralyze him, and then Rake could probably get a hit in with that.
No, I can see that. I just don't think the Rake would be able to break the connection. But
Thinking
yeah,
about it, I don't think it breaks connection, but it definitely gives a factor of Toby getting hit in some way.
I think it would definitely give the Rake at least one free shot, if anything, to get into one attack at least.
It just depends.
It's almost like a sneak attack. It can really only work once before it's something that they become aware of.
I'm starting to just like thinking about the fight more. I'm starting to like the Rake's chances in this one more and more, just because I think that as it has been a factor in a lot of the past fights, his mobility really kind of gives him the edge here.
Yeah.
He's going to be able to move around a lot faster.
And he doesn't have hatchets as. It's like he can use them, but not. It's not like Goatman swinging how fast Goatman swings.
Yeah.
He's not as strong. He
And if he does want to get some good damage in, he's going to really have to put some weight and speed behind it. So that might leave him open if he misses his swings, unless he's just going for light swings
And
to try and
we
get
also have
more
to
in.
take into account the environment. I'm guessing it's just kind of happening in this kid's room unless they kind of burst through the wall.
I'm guessing there might be like he takes the fight to a more open area,
Yeah, like
or
the
he
living
gets
room.
hit and out the doorway. Or
But
something like that.
it's just kind of that if he does it and he misses and it keeps going, it hits the floor.
Yeah, if he strikes into
and
something.
then it gets stuck in the floorboard, then that gives him another chance to attack him again.
And then it's either you lose your hatchet to avoid getting an attack and lower your damage dealing capabilities, or you go for it and try to withstand some damage.
And with his HP, being 3 or 4,
Toby's.
It was 4.
Yeah,
We never
4.
gave out a 3.
Yeah, no, I mean, he wouldn't be able to sustain too much damage. He does have that resilience, so even when he is low HP, I think he'd still be able to fight, but
It's not going to be as well, though.
No.
It's more of him it's kind of just the limping
he will
around
grow
of-
weak. He still has a human body.
He has a huge reliance on these 2 hatchets too. The more that we think about it, that's kind of his
It's
claim
really
to power.
his
here.
only way to not only defend himself, but also to put on an assault are these 2 hatchets. If he didn't have them, it'd be very hard for him to really do anything to the
I think more times than not, the Rake's gonna find a way to at least allow him to lose 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't, I mean, you just do a little bit of damage and it'll start to slow him down. And the weaker he becomes, the more easy of a target he becomes to inflict damage upon.
Especially with that low HP. That kind of, especially since like the Rake, we gave him the fact that, I mean, that thing's coming back, but the supernatural aspect of the Rake really kind of just gives him the overall edge, but the mobility I think is the hugest,
Yeah,
the
the
biggest
supernatural-
factor.
If the Rake didn't have the supernatural factor, Toby would put up a better fight, but the supernatural factor definitely plays a big part into how well the Rake will put up against Toby.
I think it's also just the mobility now I'm thinking about it. Because as I think about it, it's Toby kind of swinging, but if the Rake is so mobile that he can just kind of move out of the way, I kind of see him just kind of crawling over walls and shit.
Yeah.
As Toby's trying to fucking swing.
Yeah, it's to where Toby's mobility would be really limited in the battle arena. The Rake could work around it.
Even if they took it outside, the Rake's ability to climb just kind of gives him even more edge, you know.
It just gives him even more room to move, too.
All right, so are we thinking that the Rake is our crowned victor?
I do like him in this fight a lot more.
He definitely has a lot more wins under his belt. I can see Toby getting a win in like an in-game style to where it's his resilience keeping up with him, and then finally getting that last hit he needs on the Rake, but then he just dies right after.
he'd need
Like
a
we
lot
said,
of
he
lucky
pushes
hits.
through, definitely.
Yeah, it would definitely be low health. Then he'd just be pushing through the Rake's attacks, letting him come in so he could get in his good strikes.
Well, I don't even think it would be low health. It'd be going more towards negative, but
So
it's
he's
just
negative, but because
just
of his
keep going.
resilience and the adrenaline, he can push through death like before. All right. Yeah, no, I definitely think Rake is going to take the victor just because the environment. He's not that Toby isn't suited. He just can't utilize his environment as well as the Rake can. And I mean, the Rake is always going to have his weapons or his method of attack on him, where Toby can lose his primary method of attack. You're not really going to beat the Rake by punching him.
Yeah.
And not that Toby would have much force behind his punches anyways to deal significant
and it's
damage.
also that like Toby's kind of just a pawn in a game.
Yeah.
Whereas this is kind of really a fight between Slenderman and Rake, but Slenderman's not in the fight. He's more just using them.
He's kind of sidelined at this point.
Yeah, just sending in a lackey. All right. Well, with that out of the way, we welcome Rake as our first official cryptid or creepypasta versus creepypasta winner, and he joins all our competitors who hold a victor's belt in the ring. Now, whether or not we'll talk about these two in our mashup is yet to be debated. If anything, maybe the Rake, but we'll see how we decide to take it.
I think the Rake could be an interesting one for some cases, but that just depends.
I think we could definitely throw him into the mashup.
I think he's
Maybe,
enough of a cryptid that we could get away with it, but
Well, there's just some.
maybe not in this mashup, just because of the theme we've got going on, but definitely in an overall sense, like we could just throw him in
in
every
our
once in a
next
while.
rounds of fights, maybe. All right. Usually, this is the part where we cover believability and whether we think they exist or not. But in this case, we're covering creepypastas, which are online make-believe stories.
Yeah, it's definitely none of these I have any faith into, and I don't think either of these guys do either.
Definitely not Toby.
And Toby's a no. That's just no.
It's just a make-believe story.
He was an offshoot of an already existing story, so that I think makes it even less credible.
Well, I would think it adds on more because he just seems like another thing to add on to a more famous one, Jeff the Killer. It's just and
There's
that's-
a lot of similarities.
Jeff
He
the
just
Killer
seems like an
just
offshoot.
kind of led on to all these offshoots of more Jane the Killer, Eyeless Jack, Ticci Toby. There's
Clockwork. But let's talk about, if you had to rate this on the scale of creepypastas that you know, the story for them, would you rate it out of 10? We'll start with Andrew. And storytelling overall, because I know we're all big into storytelling.
I give it like a 4.
4.
Yeah. Ticci Toby's definitely not the strongest. Like I said, this is just like one guy kind of came up with this, so it wasn't like and then it got passed around after he made it, definitely. But there's also, if you look on a lot of the Ticci Toby stuff, there's a lot of stuff about like stop shipping him with people and stuff like that. There's a lot of like he's got a huge fandom about like him interacting with other characters in the creepypastas and stuff like that.
Delved into that when me and Roger were doing stuff earlier today, and cringe.
It is not, yeah, it is not good.
I love anime, but they animate the fuck out of it, and I hate it so much. It's supposed to be an online horror story, not your little fucking waifu.
Yeah.
Horrors.
You can make a waifu out of anything, dude.
Yeah, and I hate it.
Anyway, that's where the 4 is coming from.
What about you, Roger? On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate the Ticci Toby story?
I had to say a 4 too. I believe more than Andrew, but it just he can't believe this thing more. It's just Slenderman and connecting all that.
Storytelling wise,
yeah, it's still a 4.
Still a 4.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go lower. It's like a 3. 1, I mean, there's nothing unique about him. As character-wise, he's just some dude with a lot of mental disorders.
Well, I think in the aspect it's still unique because they do invest into like going into other creepypastas of like Slenderman and stuff.
I'll get to that part.
I pushed him up to a 4 just because of the fact that like they gave him at least a suitable, like, he's a backstory. He's got a reason why he's done all this. He's mentally ill. He kills his father. His mother like, there's all. I definitely like the storytelling aspect.
I also think more of the other offshoots like Eyeless Jack because they're on Jeff the Killer. That's why. But Eyeless Jack, Jane the Killer, all those are all basically the same.
I mean, that's why I don't like it. I think the highlight is when he becomes, in the story, a proxy of Slenderman. That definitely takes it up, but it's just really unoriginal. It's boring, and I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of these serial killer creepypastas because a lot of them are just the same. Just kid has a rough childhood, delves into madness, kills a bunch of people. Cut and dry.
Yeah,
and
it's basically like a normal serial killer.
I could totally see this happening. There's nothing in this story that's like, oh shit, okay, that's weird.
I will say, the first time I thought about it, it really was kind of out of left field when Slenderman just kind of comes and is like, hey, now you're my proxy. It is definitely weird to think about initially, like separating it as its own story, separating it from any of the intricate like connections or anything.
I think that's really the only part that gives it the creepypasta aspect is the Slenderman stuff, and that's why I didn't go like anything lower than a 1 or a 2 because I think the Slenderman thing is kind of cool, but I'm also not the biggest fan of Slenderman, so I don't think it's really that cool. Mm-hmm. And also the whole basis of it being a creepypasta relies on that one aspect, and there's not, from what I've read, a whole lot after that anyways. Now let's talk about the Rake. You want to start, Roger? Talk about storytelling.
All right,
what
Rake,
you give it out of 10.
I'm going to give it an 8. I'm going to go with an 8 because Rake just has way more interesting stories. When you think of storytelling for creepypastas, he's definitely one of the ones to go to. He's just a great creepypasta to look into.
Yeah, I'm actually going to give it a 9. I like it because it's not your traditional creepypasta. It's not some serial killer dude or just some creepy abandoned place or just some random demon that's inhabited this one area. It's like a monster or a creature, and I like the lore behind it, how all these different accounts and how they describe it and stuff. I think it's really well put together, and I like cryptids, and he fits in the cryptid pool, so they already won me over with that. So maybe an 8.5. I think I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10.
I thought about giving an 8.5 as well, but I just went with
And it's a classic. It's one of my favorites, so definitely get that nostalgic bonus.
Definitely when we went into it, that was like one of the first ones we looked into as
well.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm going with an 8 as well. I definitely like the Rake overall. From what I read about it, it's definitely got like the creepiest, fear factor so far. Yeah, it's just really, it's even the way it looks is just like unique. It's like it spawned a lot of different things like it.
Oh yeah.
But as one of the OGs, so it's definitely.
And it doesn't just branch off into this whole congested world of its own, which is something I also don't like about the whole Slenderman.
It's just a straight up creature.
It's got its own story. It doesn't try and rope in every single person that's in a creepypasta. He just does his own thing. Works out just fine. He's almost like a non-evolved Slenderman.
Yeah.
All right. And with that out of the way, I think that brings us to the end of this week's episode.
Yeah, I mean, hey, leave us a review wherever you can. We've got a few more countries under our belt now.
I haven't even checked.
I'll
bring it up real quick so we can view what everything's looking like.
From the last time I mentioned other countries, I for sure know that we've got a few more under our belt.
Yeah, we definitely have I think maybe 2 probably.
Yeah. I don't have anywhere specific. I know that we've already mentioned France and Australia, and there was...
Australia has actually overtaken Canada.
Whoa, that's the other one,
popular
Canada.
countries and territories. Australia is now our second most popular country that listens to our podcast. Of course, the United States leading. Fucking hail America.
Well, yeah.
But then it's followed by Canada, which is one download away. We have the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Austria, Philippines, South Korea, and Trinidad.
South Korea and Philippines were the 2 I was thinking of, but yeah. Those definitely, we're starting to reach out, branch off. People are getting to us from all over the world, so that's cool. Leave us a 5-star review. I will read out any reviews that have 5 stars in them. I already gave you the cheat code to doing that through email, so.
Yeah, and speaking of email, if you want to email us, you can email us at cryptidversuscryptid@gmail.com. That is
CRYPTID@gmail.com.
Also, if you did like this type of episode, let us know so we can try and do more as well.
Yeah, and give us other ideas for other episodes that you think are either in the same vein or that you'd like to hear from us. Anything like that. Yeah, interaction is the best way to get us to do something.
We'll probably do one of these maybe once every season.
Yeah, maybe once every season, once every 2 seasons. Yeah. Something special we'll definitely try and throw in every season.
Yeah, no, every time we hit a good landmark, we'll do something special, but we'll try and do something like this every once in a while and not try and stray too far from what our normal is. But speaking of interaction, you can also follow us on Twitter, Cryptid Versus. That is
CRYPTIDVS
on Twitter. And soon to come, we're still in the works, but we're thinking about making a subreddit for everybody that listens to discuss with us and with each other about the fights and what you think would happen. It's still in the works, though, just like getting the
Discord
up on Patreon. But it will come eventually, maybe.
We're slowly evolving. We'll get there.
Yep, we evolve with every spin. But that's it for us for this week. And yeah, see you guys in the next one where we're covering the bunyip. All right, see you guys.
Later.
Peace.